The Achaemenid Empire, known as the First Great Persian Empire, was one of the most influential civilizations of the ancient world. Spanning 3 continents and encompassing a vast array of cultures, it was a beacon of administrative sophistication and military prowess. At the heart of its golden age stood Darius I, later known as Darius the Great, a ruler whose vision and leadership shaped the destiny of Persia. His reign marked a turning point in the empire's history, transforming it from a loosely connected collection of conquests into a well-organized, enduring state. Understanding Darius' impact requires an exploration of the empire he inherited, the challenges he faced, and the extraordinary reforms he introduced. Before Darius ascended to power, the Persian Empire had already emerged as a formidable force under Cyrus the Great, c. 559 to 530 BCE. Cyrus' conquests united the Medes and Persians, establishing a vast dominion stretching from Anatolia to the eastern frontiers of Central Asia. His policy of tolerance and strategic governance won him loyalty across his territories. However, his sudden death in battle led to a period of instability, as his son Cambyses too took the throne. Cambyses continued the imperial expansion by conquering Egypt, but proved to be a controversial ruler. Reports from ancient historians, particularly Herodotus, describe him as a tyrant who alienated the Persian nobility and ruled through fear rather than wisdom. The death of Cambyses II in 522 BC set off a crisis that threatened the stability of the empire. A figure claiming to be Bardia, Cambyses' brother, took the throne, but many suspected he was an impostor named Gaumeda, a Magian priest. If true, this meant that Persia was under the control of a usurper, a scenario that could fracture the empire. The confusion and secrecy surrounding this transition led to unrest among the Persian elite, particularly among the military and noble families. It was within this chaotic environment that Darius, a young noble of the Achaemenid dynasty and a distant relative of Cyrus, stepped forward. Darius' claim to the throne was rooted in his aristocratic lineage and military experience. He served as a commander under Cambyses and was well respected among the elite Persian guard. Recognizing the danger posed by Gaumeda's rule, Darius, along with a small group of conspirators, orchestrated an overthrow. According to his own account in the Behistun inscription, the coup was swift and justified as an act of restoring legitimacy to the Achaemenid lineage. Despite the success of the operation, Darius' rise was met with resistance, as various provinces rebelled against his rule, questioning his legitimacy. The empire Darius inherited was vast, but fragile. While Cyrus and Cambyses had expanded Persia's borders, their system of governance remained relatively undeveloped, relying heavily on loyalty to the ruling family rather than a structured administration. The revolts following Darius' ascension made it clear that a more efficient system was necessary to maintain control. Thus, Darius set out to reshape Persia into a centralized empire, where governance was based on laws, bureaucracy, and infrastructure rather than personal rule alone. One of Darius' earliest challenges was suppressing revolts across the empire. The most significant uprisings occurred in Elam, Babylonia, and Media, where regional leaders declared independence. Darius, demonstrating both military skill and diplomatic strategy, crushed these revolts systematically. The Behistun inscription, carved into a rock face in present-day Iran, provides a detailed account of these campaigns. This inscription not only served as historical documentation, but also as propaganda, legitimizing his reign by portraying him as the chosen ruler of Ahura Mazda, the supreme deity of Zoroastrianism. Beyond military campaigns, Darius understood that the long-term stability of the empire depended on organization and governance. He introduced a system of satrapies, administrative divisions ruled by governors, satraps, who reported directly to the king. This model ensured local autonomy while maintaining imperial oversight. Additionally, Darius standardized taxation, implemented a unified currency, and promoted a common language for administration. These reforms laid the foundation for the Achaemenid Empire's longevity and influenced later civilizations, including the Hellenistic and Roman empires. Darius also prioritized infrastructure projects that facilitated communication and economic growth. The Royal Road, an extensive network of highways stretching from Susa to Sardis, allowed for efficient trade and rapid deployment of military forces. Alongside roads, Darius commissioned irrigation projects, canals, and the construction of Persepolis, a magnificent city that would become the cultural heart of the empire. These developments demonstrated his vision of a well-connected, economically prosperous Persia. Religious and cultural tolerance were also key aspects of Darius' governance. While maintaining Zoroastrianism as the imperial faith, he allowed conquered peoples to practice their own religions and customs. This policy, inherited from Cyrus the Great, prevented unnecessary conflicts and ensured the cooperation of diverse populations. Such tolerance further solidified his reputation as a just and pragmatic ruler. By the end of his early reign, Darius had transformed the Persian Empire from a loosely governed conquest state into a structured and resilient superpower. His leadership not only stabilized the empire, but also set the stage for future expansions. Although his reign would eventually face significant challenges, including conflicts with Greece, his legacy as one of history's greatest administrators remains undisputed. His rise to power was not just a change in leadership, but a transformation in how empires could be ruled. The transition of power in ancient empires was often accompanied by intrigue, conspiracy, and violence. The ascension of Darius I to the Persian throne was no exception. Unlike his predecessors, who inherited the empire through direct lineage, Darius had to seize power through a carefully orchestrated coup. His rise to prominence was not merely a political maneuver, but a defining moment in Persian history. It marked the end of instability and the beginning of an era of centralized governance and imperial strength. However, Darius' legitimacy was not immediately accepted, and he faced numerous rebellions that tested his leadership from the very start. The crisis that led to Darius' rise began with the mysterious death of Cambyses II, son of Cyrus the Great. According to historical accounts, Cambyses died in 522 BCE under suspicious circumstances while returning from his conquest of Egypt. Meanwhile, a man claiming to be Bardia, Cambyses' brother, took the Persian throne. However, many within the Persian aristocracy believed this man to be an impostor named Gaumeda, a Magian priest who had exploited the empire's confusion to install himself as ruler. Whether Gaumeda was truly an impostor or the real Bardia remains a matter of historical debate, but what is certain is that his reign caused a deep crisis within the Achaemenid court. Darius, a nobleman of the Achaemenid lineage and an elite military commander, emerged as a key figure in opposing Gaumeda. As an officer of the royal bodyguard, Darius had direct access to the court and understood the internal tensions of the empire. He, along with 6 other Persian noblemen, conspired to overthrow Gaumeda. The coup was successful, and in September 522 BCE, Gaumeda was assassinated. In the aftermath, Darius was proclaimed king, not as a direct descendant of Cambyses, but as a leader chosen by the Persian nobility to restore order. This unconventional accession led to skepticism regarding his legitimacy, prompting multiple revolts across the empire. The empire Darius inherited was vast, stretching from the Indus Valley in the east to the Aegean Sea in the west. However, despite its size, it was politically fragile. Following the assassination of Gaumeda, various regions rose in rebellion, viewing the political turmoil in the capital as an opportunity to assert independence. Babylon, Elam, Media, and other key provinces challenged Darius' rule, forcing him into immediate military action. These revolts were not merely local insurrections, but existential threats to the Persian state, as they tested Darius' ability to hold the empire together. Darius responded with a combination of military strength and strategic governance. He personally led several campaigns to suppress the uprisings, demonstrating his tactical prowess on the battlefield. The Behistun inscription, one of the most significant historical records from his reign, describes how Darius fought 19 battles in a single year to regain control of the empire. His forces systematically defeated rebellious factions, and their leaders were either executed or severely punished. This swift and brutal response sent a clear message. the Achaemenid Empire would not tolerate dissent. Despite the violence required to secure his rule, Darius was careful to frame his rise as a restoration of legitimacy rather than a mere power grab. The Behistun inscription, carved into a massive rock face in what is now Western Iran, served as both a political declaration and a historical narrative. In it, Darius portrayed himself as the rightful king, chosen by Ahura Mazda, the supreme god of Zoroastrianism. He emphasized that his rule was in accordance with divine will and that those who had rebelled were deceitful usurpers acting against the cosmic order. This religious justification helped solidify his authority and gain the loyalty of the Persian elite. Another key factor in Darius' consolidation of power was his strategic reliance on the Persian aristocracy. Unlike Cambyses, who had alienated noble families, Darius sought to strengthen ties with influential Persian clans. Many of his closest allies, including those who had helped him overthrow Gaumata, were rewarded with important administrative positions. This created a sense of shared power among the nobility, reducing the likelihood of further internal conflicts. By balancing personal ambition with noble loyalty, Darius established a more stable ruling structure than his predecessors. Beyond securing his rule, Darius also sought to create a more effective governance system. He recognized that an empire of such scale required more than just military dominance. It needed administrative efficiency. As he put down rebellions and reasserted Persian control, he began laying the foundation for one of the most sophisticated bureaucracies of the ancient world. This system, based on satrapies, taxation, and legal standardization, would define his legacy as a ruler. By the time Darius had fully secured his throne, the Persian Empire was no longer a fragile conquest state, but an organized and centralized power. His ability to swiftly suppress revolts and implement long-term governance reforms demonstrated his effectiveness as a leader. However, his ambition did not stop at internal consolidation. With the empire now firmly under his control, he turned his attention outward, seeking to expand Persia's borders even further. Darius' path to power was not simply a transition from one ruler to another. It was a transformation of the empire itself. His rise demonstrated the necessity of strong leadership, the importance of political alliances, and the enduring power of ideology in governance. While his initial years were marked by bloodshed and rebellion, his ability to overcome these obstacles cemented his place as one of the greatest rulers in history. In the next phase of his reign, Darius would go beyond internal stability to redefine what it meant to rule an empire. The Achaemenid Empire under Darius the Great was not only the largest empire of its time, but also one of the most efficiently governed. While his predecessors, Cyrus the Great and Cambyses II, had built the foundations of Persian rule through conquest, Darius understood that military expansion alone could not sustain an empire of such vast proportions. His reign was characterized by a series of administrative, economic, and infrastructural reforms that transformed Persia into a highly organized state. These reforms were not only essential for maintaining control, but also set a precedent for future empires, including the Hellenistic and Roman civilizations. One of Darius' most significant contributions to governance was the division of the empire into satrapies. Instead of relying on personal loyalty to the king, he established a structured system where the empire was divided into approximately 20 satrapies, or provinces, each ruled by a satrap governor. These satraps were responsible for collecting taxes, maintaining security, and implementing imperial policies within their respective regions. However, to prevent the satraps from gaining too much power, Darius appointed separate officials, the king's eyes and ears, who acted as royal inspectors and reported directly to the central government. This system ensured that no single satrap could challenge the authority of the king while still allowing for localized governance. Taxation was another crucial aspect of Darius' administrative policies. Unlike previous rulers who levied irregular tributes from conquered territories, Darius introduced a fixed tax system that required each satrapy to contribute a set amount of revenue based on its economic capacity. These taxes were paid in silver, gold, and agricultural produce, providing a stable income for the empire. This standardization reduced corruption, as satraps could no longer demand arbitrary tributes, and it allowed for more predictable financial planning. The wealth generated from this system funded massive infrastructure projects, military campaigns, and the overall administration of the empire. To further unify the economy, Darius introduced a common currency, the gold daric and silver sigloi. Prior to his reign, Persia had relied on a mix of local currencies inherited from the regions it had conquered. The introduction of a standardized monetary system facilitated trade and commerce, making transactions easier across different provinces. This economic stability allowed merchants to conduct business more efficiently, promoting the prosperity of urban centers like Susa, Persepolis, and Babylon. By stabilizing the financial system, Darius ensured that Persia remained economically strong, even during military conflicts. Infrastructure played a crucial role in maintaining the empire's connectivity. Recognizing that efficient communication and transportation were essential for administration, Darius oversaw the construction of the Royal Road, an extensive network stretching over 2,500 kilometers from Susa to Sardis. This road system allowed for rapid movement of troops, officials, and goods, significantly improving governance and trade. Along the route, relay stations with fresh horses were established, enabling royal messengers to cover vast distances in a matter of days. This innovation not only improved military response times, but also facilitated economic exchanges between different regions of the empire. Beyond roads, Darius also invested in monumental construction projects. He initiated the building of Persepolis, which became the ceremonial capital of the empire. Unlike other Persian cities, which served administrative or military purposes, Persepolis was designed as a symbol of Achaemenid grandeur. With its massive palaces, intricate reliefs, and grand staircases, it showcased the empire's wealth and artistic sophistication. Additionally, Darius completed the Suez Canal, linking the Nile River to the Red Sea, thereby improving maritime trade between Persia and Egypt. Such projects not only reinforced the empire's infrastructure, but also displayed Darius' commitment to economic and cultural development. Legal standardization was another pillar of Darius' reforms. Prior to his reign, different regions of the empire operated under their own legal traditions, leading to inconsistencies in governance. To address this, Darius initiated efforts to compile and codify laws, ensuring that justice was administered more uniformly. While he allowed local customs to persist, he implemented overarching imperial laws that regulated taxation, trade, and criminal justice. This legal framework strengthened the authority of the central government while respecting the diverse traditions of the empire's many peoples. Religious and cultural tolerance remained a cornerstone of Darius' policies. Although he was a devout follower of Zoroastrianism, he did not impose it as the official state religion. Instead, he followed the precedent set by Cyrus the Great, allowing conquered peoples to practice their faiths freely. This policy helped to maintain stability within the multi-ethnic empire, preventing unnecessary uprisings based on religious oppression. His support for local customs is evident in the restoration of temples and religious institutions, including his patronage of the Jewish community and the reconstruction of the Temple of Jerusalem. The success of Darius' administrative system lay in its ability to balance centralized control with local autonomy. Unlike many empires that collapsed under the strain of over-centralization or excessive regional independence, Persia under Darius found an equilibrium. The satrapies ensured efficient governance at the provincial level, while the king retained ultimate authority through his network of spies, inspectors, and military forces. This system allowed the empire to function effectively despite its vast size and diverse population. By the time Darius had fully implemented his administrative reforms, the Achaemenid Empire had become one of the most efficiently governed states in history. His policies created a lasting legacy, influencing later civilizations that sought to replicate his model of governance. Though his reign would eventually be challenged by military conflicts, particularly against the Greeks, his ability to organize and sustain an empire set a standard for future rulers. With the empire now firmly structured, Darius was ready to embark on new conquests, expanding Persia's influence even further. The Achaemenid Empire under Darius the Great was not just defined by its administrative sophistication, but also by its ambitious military campaigns. Although Darius initially focused on stabilizing his rule and implementing reforms, his vision for Persia extended beyond its existing borders. He sought to consolidate power, secure strategic regions, and expand the empire's influence into new territories. His military endeavors were crucial in shaping the geopolitical landscape of the ancient world, reinforcing Persia's dominance over vast regions from the Indus Valley to the Aegean Sea. One of Darius' first major campaigns was directed towards Central Asia, a region that had historically resisted Persian control. Although Cyrus the Great had expanded Persian rule into the eastern territories, parts of Bactria, Sogdiana, and the Scythian lands remained unstable. Darius led a series of expeditions to subjugate these regions, ensuring that they were fully integrated into the empire. His military efforts in Central Asia were not only about conquest, but also about securing Persia's borders against nomadic incursions. By establishing fortified outposts and garrisons, Darius reduced the threat posed by nomadic groups and solidified Persian rule in the east. Darius then turned his attention to the Indus Valley, a wealthy and fertile region that had been partially incorporated into the empire during the reign of Cyrus. Around 518 BCE, Darius launched a campaign into northwestern India, subduing local rulers and extending Persian control over what is now Pakistan and parts of western India. The conquest of the Indus Valley was significant because it facilitated trade between Persia and the Indian subcontinent, bringing valuable resources such as gold, textiles, and spices into the empire. It also demonstrated Darius' ability to manage a diverse and distant population as he incorporated Indian satrapies into the Persian administrative system. Perhaps the most ambitious and logistically complex campaign of Darius' reign was his invasion of Scythia around 513 BCE. The Scythians, a confederation of nomadic tribes inhabiting the region north of the Black Sea, had long been a threat to Persian frontiers. Their hit-and-run tactics and mobility made them difficult to conquer through conventional warfare. Undeterred, Darius led a massive army across the Danube River, constructing a bridge of boats to facilitate the crossing. However, the Scythians, rather than engaging in direct combat, employed a scorched earth strategy, retreating deeper into their lands while destroying resources to deny the Persians supplies. Despite advancing far into Scythian territory, Darius was unable to force a decisive battle and was eventually forced to retreat. While the campaign did not result in the annexation of Scythian lands, it showcased Persia's military reach and ability to project power beyond its traditional borders. Darius' expansionist ambitions also brought Persia into direct conflict with the Greek world. The westernmost part of the empire included Ionia, a region of Greek city-states on the coast of Anatolia, modern-day Turkey. These cities had been under Persian rule since the time of Cyrus, but tensions between Persian governors and Greek inhabitants led to discontent. In 499 BCE, the Ionian Revolt broke out, with Greek cities rebelling against Persian control. The revolt was supported by the city-states of Athens and Eretria, marking the beginning of hostilities between Persia and Greece. Darius responded to the Ionian Revolt with overwhelming force. After a prolonged struggle, Persian troops crushed the rebellion in 494 BC, sacking the city of Miletus, the heart of the uprising. However, Darius was not content with merely suppressing the revolt. He sought to punish Athens and Eretria for their involvement. This led to the first Persian invasion of Greece in 492 BCE, an ambitious campaign aimed at bringing mainland Greece under Persian control. The first stage of the invasion, led by Mardonius, one of Darius' top generals, focused on reasserting Persian dominance over Thrace and Macedonia. However, a storm destroyed much of the Persian fleet near Mount Athos, forcing a temporary retreat. Undeterred, Darius launched a second expedition in 490 BCE, this time under the command of Datis and Artaphernes. The Persian forces successfully captured Eretria, burning the city to the ground as a warning to other Greek states. They then landed at the Bay of Marathon, where they faced the Athenian army in one of history's most famous battles. The Battle of Marathon proved to be a turning point. Despite being outnumbered, the Greek forces, led by Miltiades, employed superior tactics, using a strong center and flanking maneuvers to encircle and defeat the Persian army. The unexpected Greek victory shocked the Persian court, demonstrating that Persia's military superiority was not absolute. Although the defeat at Marathon did not immediately threaten Persia's dominance, it marked the beginning of a long and costly conflict between the two civilizations. Following the failed Greek campaign, Darius focused on internal stability and preparing for a larger invasion. However, before he could launch a renewed offensive, he faced revolts in Egypt and Babylon, which required his attention. In 486 BCE, just as he was planning a second invasion of Greece, Darius fell ill and died, leaving his unfinished plans to his son, Xerxes I. Darius' military campaigns had a lasting impact on the Persian Empire. His conquests in Central Asia and the Indus Valley expanded Persian influence to its greatest territorial extent, while his campaigns against the Scythians and Greeks demonstrated both the strengths and limitations of Persian military power. Although his invasion of Greece ended in defeat at Marathon, it set the stage for future conflicts that would define the rivalry between Persia and the Greek world. Darius was not just a conqueror, but a ruler who understood the complexities of maintaining a vast empire. His military campaigns were not driven purely by territorial ambition, but by a strategic vision aimed at securing Persia's borders, increasing trade, and ensuring long-term stability. While his military efforts were at times met with setbacks, they solidified the Achaemenid Empire's status as the dominant power of the ancient world. Darius the Great was not only a skilled military leader and administrator, but also a visionary in economic policy. His reign marked a transformation of the Persian economy, making it one of the most sophisticated of the ancient world. Unlike his predecessors, who primarily focused on conquest and territorial expansion, Darius understood that the long-term stability of his empire depended on economic prosperity. His policies facilitated trade, increased revenue, and fostered economic integration across the vast Persian territory, which stretched from the Indus Valley to the Mediterranean Sea. One of the most significant economic reforms under Darius was the standardization of currency. Prior to his reign, Persia relied on a variety of local currencies inherited from the regions it had conquered. This lack of uniformity created inefficiencies in trade and taxation. To address this issue, Darius introduced the gold daric and silver sigloi, which became the official currency of the empire. The daric, a high-purity gold coin, was widely used for large transactions, while the silver sigloi was commonly used for daily commerce. This monetary system not only facilitated trade, but also reinforced the central authority of the Persian state. Darius also implemented a systematic taxation policy that provided a stable revenue stream for the empire. Instead of relying on irregular tributes from subject states, he established a fixed annual tax rate for each satrapy based on its economic capacity. Wealthier regions, such as Egypt and Babylon, contributed more than less prosperous areas. For instance, Egypt was required to pay a massive annual tribute of 700 talents of silver, while smaller provinces contributed significantly less. This structured system ensured a predictable income for the empire, which was used to finance military campaigns, infrastructure projects, and administrative expenses. Trade was another key pillar of Darius' economic strategy. The Persian Empire occupied a unique geographic position that connected three major economic regions: the Mediterranean world, Mesopotamia, and the Indian subcontinent. To take advantage of this, Darius invested heavily in infrastructure that facilitated commerce. The Royal Road, stretching over 2,500 kilometers, was a crucial trade route that allowed merchants to transport goods efficiently. Additionally, Darius completed the construction of the Suez Canal, which linked the Nile River to the Red Sea, enabling maritime trade between Persia, Egypt, and South Asia. These improvements significantly boosted economic activity and ensured the flow of goods across the empire. The impact of these infrastructure projects was profound. The Royal Road, in particular, reduced travel time for merchants and government officials, allowing for faster communication and trade. Relay stations along the route provided fresh horses and supplies, enabling royal couriers to travel from Susa to Sardis in just 7 days, an unprecedented speed in the ancient world. This efficient transportation network encouraged long-distance trade, bringing goods such as silk from China, spices from India, and gold from Egypt into Persian markets. Darius also promoted agricultural development, recognizing that a stable food supply was essential for both the economy and the military. The Persian government encouraged irrigation projects, particularly in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Persia itself, to improve agricultural productivity. One of the most notable innovations of the time was the Kanat system, an underground irrigation method that allowed farmers to access groundwater efficiently. This technology not only expanded agricultural output, but also supported the growth of rural communities, ensuring that the empire remained self-sufficient in food production. The expansion of trade and agriculture also contributed to the rise of urban centers across the empire. Cities such as Babylon, Persepolis, Susa, and Sardis became major economic hubs, where artisans, traders, and administrators played crucial roles in sustaining the Persian economy. These cities housed marketplaces, workshops, and financial institutions, fostering a vibrant commercial environment. In addition, Persian cities became cultural melting pots, where merchants from Greece, India, and Mesopotamia interacted, exchanging not only goods but also ideas and technologies. Despite these economic successes, Darius' taxation policies were not universally welcomed. The heavy tribute demanded from satrapies sometimes led to dissatisfaction and occasional uprisings. For example, in Egypt and Babylon, high taxes contributed to periodic revolts, requiring Persian military intervention to restore order. However, despite these challenges, the benefits of a standardized taxation system outweighed the drawbacks, as it allowed for efficient resource allocation and long-term imperial stability. Another key aspect of Darius' economic policies was his promotion of a unified legal and commercial system. He established a set of laws that regulated trade, property rights, and contracts, ensuring that merchants could operate with a degree of legal protection. This system provided economic security and reduced the risks associated with long-distance trade. By protecting commerce and reducing legal uncertainties, Darius encouraged business growth, attracting merchants from across the known world to operate within Persian territory. Darius' economic policies had a lasting impact, setting a precedent for future empires. His reforms transformed the Achaemenid Empire into an economic powerhouse, where trade, agriculture, and finance worked in harmony to sustain imperial ambitions. By standardizing currency, improving infrastructure, and promoting a stable taxation system, Darius ensured that Persia remained a dominant force in the ancient world. His economic vision not only strengthened the empire during his reign, but also laid the foundation for its prosperity in the years to come. Darius the Great's reign was not solely defined by military conquests and administrative reforms. His cultural and religious policies played a crucial role in shaping the stability and identity of the Achaemenid Empire. Governing over a vast, multi-ethnic empire required a delicate balance between imperial authority and local traditions. Unlike many rulers of antiquity who sought to impose a uniform culture or religion, Darius embraced a policy of religious tolerance and cultural pluralism, allowing his diverse subjects to maintain their traditions while still integrating them into the broader Persian imperial structure. One of Darius' most significant contributions to Persian cultural identity was his patronage of Zoroastrianism, which he considered the foundation of his rule. Zoroastrianism, the monotheistic faith attributed to the prophet Zarathustra as Zoroaster, emphasized the cosmic struggle between Ahura Mazda, the god of truth and light, and Ungra Mainyu, the spirit of chaos and darkness. Darius frequently invoked Ahura Mazda in royal inscriptions, presenting himself as a king who ruled with divine favor and righteousness. Despite his personal devotion to Zoroastrianism, he did not attempt to force it upon his subjects, understanding that religious tolerance was key to maintaining order in such a vast empire. A striking example of Darius' religious tolerance was his treatment of conquered peoples and their faiths. The best-known instance of this policy was his support for the Jewish people. Following in the footsteps of Cyrus the Great, Darius reaffirmed the rights of the Jews to practice their religion and even financed the reconstruction of the Temple of Jerusalem, which had been destroyed by the Babylonians. This act not only secured the loyalty of the Jewish population within the empire, but also reinforced Persia's reputation as a protector of religious freedom. Darius also extended religious protections to the Babylonians, Egyptians, and other conquered peoples, allowing them to worship their gods without interference. In Babylon, he recognized the importance of Marduk, the chief deity of the city, and participated in Babylonian religious ceremonies to legitimize his rule. In Egypt, he portrayed himself as a traditional pharaoh, respecting Egyptian religious customs and even contributing to the restoration of Egyptian temples. This approach helped him secure the allegiance of Egypt, a region that was frequently resistant to foreign rule. Beyond religious tolerance, Darius actively promoted cultural integration within the empire. He commissioned the construction of Persepolis, a grand ceremonial capital that reflected the diverse artistic traditions of the empire. The architectural style of Persepolis incorporated Babylonian, Elamite, Egyptian, and Greek influences, symbolizing the unity of Persia's many peoples. The reliefs on the walls of Persepolis depicted delegations from various satrapies bringing tribute, visually reinforcing the idea of imperial harmony under Persian rule. Language was another tool Darius used to promote cultural cohesion. While Old Persian was the official language of administration, he recognized the need for multilingual governance. His inscriptions were often written in 3 languages: Old Persian, Elamite, and Akkadian, ensuring that they were accessible to different segments of the empire's population. This policy of linguistic inclusivity was particularly evident in the Behistun inscription, a massive rock carving that chronicled Darius' rise to power and legitimized his rule. Written in multiple languages, the inscription was intended to be understood by a broad audience, reinforcing the authority of the Persian monarchy. Education and scholarship also flourished under Darius' rule. The Persians adopted and adapted elements from the cultures they ruled, particularly the sophisticated administrative and astronomical knowledge of the Babylonians. Centers of learning in Babylon and Susa continued to operate, producing advancements in mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. Darius' reign allowed these intellectual traditions to be preserved and even expanded through Persian patronage. Art and literature were equally enriched by Persia's cultural diversity. The empire's artisans created intricate reliefs, metalwork, and textiles, blending Persian, Greek, and Mesopotamian artistic styles. The royal palaces of Susa and Persepolis were adorned with elaborate carvings that depicted Persian nobles, warriors, and envoys from across the empire. These artistic achievements not only served a decorative function, but also communicated Persia's imperial ideology, depicting the king as the unifying force of a diverse empire. Despite his policy of tolerance, Darius did enforce strict political control over regions that resisted Persian rule. In Babylon, for example, revolts against Persian authority led to military crackdowns. While Darius allowed religious freedom, he did not tolerate political rebellion. His approach to governance thus balanced cultural accommodation with political pragmatism, ensuring that the empire remained stable while still respecting local customs. Darius the Great's cultural and religious policies were instrumental in maintaining the unity of the Persian Empire. By respecting and incorporating the traditions of the peoples he ruled, he strengthened the loyalty of his subjects and reduced the likelihood of uprisings. His vision of an empire based on administrative efficiency, religious tolerance, and cultural exchange set a precedent for future rulers, including the later Hellenistic and Roman empires. His ability to blend Persian traditions with those of the wider world ensured that the Achaemenid Empire was not merely a conquering force, but a true civilization that thrived on diversity. One of the defining aspects of Darius the Great's reign was his ability to implement legal reforms and administrative structures that ensured the stability and efficiency of the vast Achaemenid Empire. His rule was not merely about conquest, but about governing effectively. And to achieve this, he introduced a unified legal system, codified laws, and a sophisticated bureaucratic structure that strengthened Persian rule across diverse territories. His policies set the foundation for governance in one of history's largest empires, influencing future administrations long after his reign. At the core of Darius' administrative success was his restructuring of the satrapy system. While his predecessors, such as Cyrus the Great, had already established the satrapy model, Darius refined and formalized it to create a more centralized and accountable system of governance. The empire was divided into 20 satrapies, each governed by a satrap, provincial governor, who was responsible for tax collection, law enforcement, and military security. However, to prevent the accumulation of too much power in the hands of any one satrap, Darius appointed separate royal officials, such as military commanders and financial inspectors, who reported directly to the king. This system prevented rebellion and corruption, ensuring that the satraps remained loyal to the central government. A key aspect of Darius' governance was the implementation of a codified legal system that applied throughout the empire. Unlike previous Persian rulers who allowed local laws to operate independently, Darius sought to standardize justice while still respecting the customs of each region. He ordered the collection and revision of existing laws, integrating them into a unified legal framework that could be applied fairly across different provinces. This system ensured that legal disputes were handled in a consistent manner, reinforcing the authority of Persian rule. The royal judges played an essential role in Darius' legal system. These officials were appointed directly by the king and were tasked with overseeing judicial matters in different satrapies. They were expected to uphold Ahura Mazda's principles of justice, ensuring that cases were decided with fairness and without corruption. The punishment for judicial dishonesty was severe. Darius himself ordered that corrupt judges be executed, and in some cases, flayed alive as a deterrent against injustice. This harsh but effective policy helped maintain integrity within the Persian legal system. Communication and efficiency were vital to Darius' administrative success. To enhance governance, he expanded the Royal Road, a network of well-maintained highways that connected major cities such as Susa, Sardis, and Persepolis. This infrastructure allowed royal officials to quickly relay messages and transport goods, reducing delays in governance and military coordination. The Persian postal system, one of the most advanced of its time, relied on relay stations where messengers on horseback could exchange messages at rapid speeds. As the Greek historian Herodotus famously noted, neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor darkness stops these couriers from completing their appointed course. This system enabled Darius to maintain tight control over his empire and respond swiftly to any administrative or military issues. Taxation was another area where Darius introduced significant reforms. Unlike earlier tribute systems that were often arbitrary and inconsistent, Darius established a fixed and regulated tax system based on the productivity and wealth of each satrapy. Each province was required to pay a specific amount of tribute in gold, silver, or agricultural products, ensuring a steady flow of revenue for the empire. This policy allowed Darius to efficiently fund military campaigns, infrastructure projects, and palace construction, while also avoiding overburdening specific regions with excessive taxation. The legal and administrative structure under Darius also extended to economic regulations. He introduced laws protecting merchants, landowners, and artisans, fostering a stable and predictable business environment. By ensuring that contracts and property rights were legally binding, he encouraged economic activity across the empire. This predictability in commerce contributed to the success of Persian trade, as merchants felt secure operating within a fair legal framework. Despite his efforts at creating a just and efficient system, Darius still faced occasional challenges in enforcing his laws. Some regions, such as Egypt and Babylon, resented Persian rule and resisted administrative oversight, leading to periodic revolts. However, Darius' swift military responses, combined with his strategic use of local governors, allowed him to restore order while maintaining the empire's stability. His ability to balance central authority with local autonomy was a key factor in Persia's long-term governance success. Darius' legal and administrative reforms also influenced future empires, particularly the Hellenistic and Roman empires, which adopted many aspects of his bureaucratic governance and legal codification. His approach to governance demonstrated that effective rule was not simply about conquest, but but about creating sustainable institutions that could outlast the reign of a single ruler. Darius the Great's legal and administrative policies laid the foundation for a well-structured and efficient empire. His refinement of the satrapy system, codification of laws, promotion of a professional judiciary, and expansion of communication networks transformed Persia into a highly organized and administratively sophisticated state. His ability to maintain order, ensure fairness, and prevent corruption solidified the Achaemenid Empire's dominance, making it one of the most enduring and influential empires in world history. Darius the Great was not only a skilled administrator, but also a formidable military strategist. His reign was marked by expansionist campaigns, defensive wars, and efforts to consolidate Persian control over its vast territories. Although he inherited a vast empire from his predecessors, maintaining and securing such a dominion required constant military engagement. Darius led numerous campaigns to suppress revolts, expand Persian influence, and defend against external threats, solidifying the Achaemenid Empire's position as the dominant power of the ancient world. One of Darius' early military challenges was the suppression of rebellions that erupted across the empire following his rise to power. After securing the Persian throne, he faced widespread revolts in Babylon, Elam, and Media, as local rulers sought to exploit the transition of power. His swift and decisive military actions ensured that these uprisings were quelled, reaffirming his authority over the empire. The Behistun inscription, one of his most famous proclamations, details how he defeated multiple pretenders to the throne and crushed rebellious factions, ensuring the stability of the Achaemenid state. Beyond consolidating his rule, Darius also sought to expand the empire's frontiers. One of his most ambitious military campaigns was the conquest of the Indus Valley, which extended Persian rule into the Indian subcontinent. This campaign, which took place around 518 BCE, brought the rich lands of Gandhara and the Punjab under Persian control. This expansion not only increased the empire's wealth, but also established trade routes linking Persia with the Indian economy, facilitating the exchange of goods, culture, and ideas between the two regions. Darius also turned his attention to Central Asia and the Western Steppes, where nomadic tribes such as the Scythians posed a threat to Persian borders. Around 513 BCE, he launched an expedition against the Scythians, crossing the Danube River into what is now modern-day Ukraine. Despite his strategic planning and superior forces, the Scythians employed hit-and-run tactics, avoiding direct confrontation and drawing the Persian army deeper into the harsh terrain. Unable to engage the enemy in a decisive battle, Darius eventually withdrew his forces, marking one of the few military setbacks of his reign. However, his campaign did result in the fortification of Persian borders in the region and secured Persia's dominance over Thrace and Macedonia, making them vassal states. The most famous and controversial military endeavor of Darius' reign was his conflict with Greece, which would later culminate in the Greco-Persian Wars. The Persian-Greek rivalry began when Ionian Greek cities in Asia Minor, under Persian control, revolted against Persian rule in 499 BCE. These cities, supported by Athens and Eretria, sought to break free from Persian dominance. Darius responded with a massive military campaign to suppress the revolt, which he successfully accomplished by 494 BCE, destroying the city of Miletus and reasserting Persian control over the region. However, the involvement of Athens and Eretria in the Ionian revolt provoked Darius' wrath. Determined to punish the Greek city-states for their interference, he launched an invasion of mainland Greece in 490 BC. His forces, led by the general Datis, landed in Marathon near Athens. Despite their numerical superiority, the Persians suffered a shocking defeat at the hands of the Athenian hoplites, marking the famous Battle of Marathon. This loss was a significant setback for Darius and demonstrated the resilience of the Greek city-states. Although Darius planned a second, larger invasion of Greece, his preparations were cut short by internal matters within the empire and his eventual death in 486 BCE. The task of completing the conquest of Greece fell to his son and successor, Xerxes I, who led the invasion of Greece in 480 BC, resulting in the famous battles of Thermopylae, Salamis, and Plataea. Despite the failure at Marathon, Darius' military campaigns overall were largely successful in maintaining and expanding Persian influence. His ability to swiftly mobilize vast armies, use strategic logistics, and implement long-term military planning ensured that Persia remained a global superpower. He fortified key garrisons, strengthened coastal defenses, and improved the empire's logistical capabilities, ensuring that future Persian rulers had the resources to engage in warfare when necessary. Darius' military legacy was also tied to the organization of the Persian army, which became one of the most effective fighting forces of the ancient world. The Persian military was composed of a diverse array of ethnic groups, including Medes, Babylonians, Egyptians, Indians, and Greeks, each contributing specialized military skills. The elite force of the empire, known as the Immortals, was a standing army of 10,000 heavily armed soldiers who served as the king's personal guard and played a decisive role in major battles. Darius the Great's military campaigns were critical to the expansion and defense of the Achaemenid Empire. While some efforts, such as the Scythian and Greek campaigns, had mixed results, his broader military strategy ensured Persia's dominance for decades. By expanding into India, securing the empire's borders, and maintaining internal stability, Darius solidified the Persian Empire as the world's first true superpower. His ability to balance military aggression with strategic diplomacy allowed the Achaemenid state to thrive, shaping the course of history for generations to come. Darius the Great was not only a skilled military leader and administrator, but also a visionary economist. His reign marked an era of economic prosperity, trade expansion, and financial stability, which contributed to the enduring strength of the Achaemenid Empire. By implementing a standardized monetary system, improving infrastructure, and promoting commerce, Darius laid the foundation for one of the most sophisticated economies of the ancient world. His economic policies not only strengthened the internal stability of Persia, but also fostered commercial and cultural exchanges across vast territories, creating a truly interconnected empire. One of Darius' most significant economic reforms was the introduction of a standardized currency. Prior to his reign, the Achaemenid Empire relied on a system of barter and regional currencies, making trade inconsistent and inefficient. To unify the economy, Darius introduced the gold daric and the silver siglos, which became the official currencies of the empire. The gold daric, stamped with an image of the Persian king, became one of the most stable and widely accepted coins of the ancient world. This innovation facilitated trade, taxation, and economic transactions, making commerce more efficient across different regions. Taxation was another area where Darius implemented significant reforms. Unlike previous tribute systems that relied on arbitrary demands from local rulers, Darius established a fixed and organized tax system. Each satrapy, province, was required to pay an annual tax based on its economic productivity, ensuring a predictable and steady flow of revenue to the royal treasury. Wealthier regions, such as Egypt and Babylon, contributed more than less fertile or sparsely populated areas. This system not only provided financial security for the empire, but also ensured that taxation was distributed more fairly among the provinces. To further stimulate economic growth, Darius invested heavily in infrastructure projects, particularly in the expansion of roads, bridges, and irrigation systems. The most famous of these was the Royal Road, a vast highway stretching approximately 2,700 kilometers, 1,700 miles, from Susa to Sardis. This road allowed merchants, government officials, and military forces to travel quickly across the empire, reducing the time required for trade and administrative communication. The Persian postal system, which operated through relay stations along the Royal Road, ensured that economic and governmental messages could be efficiently transmitted across great distances. Darius also encouraged agriculture, recognizing it as the backbone of the empire's economy. He commissioned the construction of qanats, an advanced irrigation system that allowed water to be transported underground across arid regions, particularly in Persia and Central Asia. This innovation increased agricultural productivity, enabling farmers to cultivate larger areas of land and produce more surplus goods. The state-supported irrigation projects not only ensured food security, but also increased tax revenues from agricultural production. Trade flourished under Darius' economic policies, making Persia a hub for international commerce. The empire's vast territorial expanse connected major civilizations, including Mesopotamia, Egypt, India, and Greece, creating one of the earliest globalized economies. The Persians facilitated trade in gold, silver, spices, textiles, and luxury goods, allowing merchants from different cultures to engage in economic exchanges. The standardized currency and tax system further encouraged commercial activities by reducing economic barriers between different regions. Persia's extensive trade networks were further supported by its naval expansion. Darius commissioned the construction of canals and ports, most notably the Darius Canal, also called the Canal of the Pharaohs, which connected the Nile River to the Red Sea. This ambitious project improved maritime trade between Egypt, Arabia, and the Persian Gulf, allowing for greater economic integration. Persian fleets also patrolled major waterways, protecting merchant ships from piracy and ensuring safe trade routes. Darius' policies also had a profound impact on urban development. Major cities like Susa, Persepolis, and Babylon became thriving economic centers, filled with markets, workshops, and trade caravans. These cities housed artisans, merchants, and government officials, fostering economic dynamism within the empire. The Persian government also supported the construction of storehouses and granaries, ensuring that food surpluses were managed efficiently and could be distributed in times of famine. While Darius' economic policies largely benefited the empire, they also created certain challenges. The reliance on heavy taxation and labor obligations sometimes led to dissatisfaction among subject peoples, particularly in regions where taxation was burdensome. In Egypt, for instance, there were occasional protests against Persian tax collectors, as the high levies placed a strain on local economies. However, Darius balanced these economic pressures with generous investments in infrastructure, ensuring that most regions ultimately benefited from Persian economic policies. Darius the Great's economic policies were fundamental to the strength and longevity of the Achaemenid Empire. By standardizing currency, reforming taxation, expanding trade, and investing in infrastructure, he created a stable and prosperous economy that facilitated both imperial control and cultural exchange. His economic innovations not only strengthened Persia's internal stability, but also established the empire as a major force in global commerce. The legacy of his economic reforms endured beyond his reign, influencing later empires, such as the Hellenistic and Roman economies, which adopted many of his principles of monetary standardization and trade expansion. The reign of Darius the Great was one of the most remarkable periods in ancient history, leaving an enduring impact on governance, military strategy, economics, and cultural integration. His rule solidified the Achaemenid Empire as the most powerful state of its time, with a sophisticated administrative system and a vast territorial expanse. While his reign ended with his death in 486 BCE, his influence extended far beyond his lifetime, shaping the course of Persian and world history. His policies and innovations laid the groundwork for future empires, including the Hellenistic, Roman, and Islamic civilizations, which adopted and refined many of his governance and economic strategies. One of Darius' most lasting contributions was the political and administrative structure of the Persian Empire. By organizing the empire into satrapies, he established a system of decentralized governance that allowed for effective management of diverse territories. This model of administration was later adopted by the Seleucid and Parthian empires, as well as the Romans, who utilized a similar provincial system. The success of Darius' governance demonstrated that a vast empire could be maintained through efficient delegation, strong communication networks, and standardized laws, a concept that shaped imperial governance for centuries. Darius' legal reforms also had a profound influence on the ancient world. His effort to codify laws and establish a uniform legal system ensured stability within the empire, reinforcing the rule of law over arbitrary governance. By appointing royal judges and emphasizing justice as a divine principle, Darius set a precedent for later rulers who sought to balance authority with fairness. Many subsequent empires, including the Byzantine and Islamic caliphates, developed legal systems that were deeply influenced by the Persian model of standardized law and judicial oversight. In the realm of economics, Darius' standardization of currency was a transformative innovation that facilitated trade across the empire. The gold daric and silver siglos became recognized as reliable currencies, setting a precedent for future monetary systems. This early form of economic globalization allowed commerce to flourish from India to the Mediterranean, linking distant regions through a unified economic structure. The practice of using standardized currency for trade was later refined by the Greeks and Romans, whose monetary policies drew inspiration from Persian economic models. The Royal Road, one of Darius' greatest infrastructure projects, revolutionized transportation and communication within the empire. By reducing travel time and improving security, the road facilitated both trade and military logistics, ensuring that the central government could respond swiftly to issues across its vast territories. This concept of imperial highways was later expanded upon by Alexander the Great, the Romans with their extensive road networks, and even modern nations, which recognized the importance of well-maintained infrastructure for economic and political stability. Darius' military legacy was complex. While he was largely successful in expanding and consolidating Persian rule, his failure at the Battle of Marathon in 490 BC marked the beginning of the Greco-Persian Wars, which ultimately led to Persia's conflicts with Greece. However, his military campaigns in India, Central Asia, and the Near East demonstrated the effectiveness of Persian warfare and logistics. His ability to mobilize vast armies and integrate diverse ethnic groups into a unified military force was a model that later empires, including the Macedonians and Romans, would adopt in their own campaigns of conquest. Culturally, Darius played a significant role in promoting religious tolerance and artistic achievements. As a devout follower of Zoroastrianism, he upheld the principles of justice, truth, and order. Yet he also respected the diverse religious traditions of his subjects. Unlike many ancient rulers who sought to impose a single religion, Darius allowed Egyptians, Babylonians, Jews, and Greeks within his empire to practice their faith freely. His restoration of temples and religious sites, including his support for the rebuilding of the Jewish temple in Jerusalem, earned him the loyalty of many subject peoples. This policy of tolerance was later mirrored by rulers such as Cyrus the Great, Ashoka of India, and even some Roman emperors who sought to maintain harmony within multi-ethnic empires. Darius' construction of Persepolis, the ceremonial capital of the Persian Empire, was another testament to his vision. The grand palaces, intricate reliefs, and monumental architecture of Persepolis reflected the empire's wealth, diversity, and artistic excellence. This city became a symbol of Persian identity and remained a center of culture and governance until it was famously destroyed by Alexander the Great in 330 BCE. Despite its destruction, its artistic and architectural influence persisted, inspiring later Persian dynasties such as the Sassanids and Safavids, who sought to emulate the grandeur of Darius' imperial capital. The death of Darius in 486 BC marked the end of an era, yet his policies and institutions endured long after his passing. His son and successor, Xerxes I, inherited a well-organized empire, but his more aggressive military campaigns against Greece ultimately led to setbacks that weakened Persian dominance in the West. Nevertheless, the empire continued to thrive for nearly 2 centuries until its conquest by Alexander the Great in 330 BCE. Even after its fall, many of Darius' administrative, economic, and military strategies were adopted by the Hellenistic kingdoms and later the Roman and Byzantine empires. Darius the Great's legacy is one of innovation, stability, and enduring influence. His ability to govern a diverse empire through efficient administration, economic reforms, military organization, and cultural tolerance set a model for future empires. His policies laid the foundation for imperial governance, trade networks, and legal systems that influenced civilizations for centuries. While his empire eventually fell, his contributions to world history remain one of the most significant achievements of the ancient world, securing his place as one of history's greatest rulers.